the queen with a sword, Timi Orosz. How
Hello,
are you
hello.
doing?
I'm
You
doing really well. We just had a little catch up before we went live. I was sharing with you. I'm having quite a busy week as I'm taking a bit of time off from this Friday for a few days. I've got some family visiting us here in the Canary Islands, so it would be nice to disconnect for a little bit. But that means busy week this week. What about you? How's your week going?
It's same. As I was sharing with you, just came from Easter. Just had a little gateway with my spouse in Austria. So we a little bit what we were talking about throughout our sessions, taking care of yourself and taking time for yourself. And one of the points you were mentioning as well, you need to book a flight to do something for yourself, and that's what we did, and it was really nice. On the
Good.
upside, I was eating way too much, so I was fasting yesterday, and I was fasting today until recently. So
Too many
I'm
schnitzels.
yeah, well, didn't eat. That's the way to put it. But we had more of a like buffet, and then we had a 7 course dinner every evening with
Wow.
different type of food. So this is obviously thing that a lot of you out there guys probably like to eat. So I want to encourage you to be smart about it. When you eat, definitely do something to cleanse and that you feel better, because overall I think that's something how I manage to look good and feel good, because of taking a little bit more care about the body. If I eat too much, then vice versa. So yeah, but
Balance, balance, balance.
that can be a hard part, because obviously you and me, I think we are very similar in the output we try to produce. And I see you're active on LinkedIn and you do things with your clients, and every time I'm really interested to see what's happening. And as well, last time I asked you actually about SEO, what do you see work, and then you're like, hey, think first, what type of clients you want to have. And so it's very interesting just to see what you're up to. But my week is similar to yours, very busy, packed, and just always, this is what I found the hardest. I don't know, maybe that's a little bit of a segue and the intro before we dive into the today's principles. Because how do you deal with when you take time off, like you did, for example, back then in Sri Lanka, or maybe in between, and then you go back to the normal? Because I found it quite hard,
Mm,
to be
yeah.
to be perfectly honest.
The transition phase is never pleasant, but it depends, I think, on who you are as well, and how much time off you need, because back then I took a really long time off, so that was about 8 9 months that I decided to stop working for. And going back from that long period into going back into your daily habits and having your responsibilities, it did take a little bit of time for me. But what I did for myself and what worked for me is that I started building those daily habits before I had to enroll into them live. So when I took that longer sort of career break back in 2018, 2019, that's when I realized that I had a new opportunity when I secured a job in Barcelona as a director. I traveled to live there, obviously, as well, to explore the city. So before I started the new job, I took about another couple of weeks to explore the new surroundings, to walk around the office so that I know how to find the building, explore the cafes nearby. So I could already start training my mind that this is the place I'm going to go to have my lunch break every other day, or this is the park that I can go to after work, and things like that. So I was slowly building those little habits already into my daily routine. And I think that kind of helped me transition back into that sort of working mindset. Versus now, I take short breaks. They are the little mini getaways, as I call them, or the intense little breaks, which would be just a long weekend or a couple of days off. So with that, I would be planning ahead. So this is the perfect timing for that, because I'm taking a bit of time off next week. So I'll have a bit of a busy schedule this week, because I want to make sure that I'm not leaving my clients hanging as well when I'm enjoying some time with family. But I'm actually going to be preparing in advance. So when I do come back from my break, I don't have a super long to-do list, but I try to use this burst of energy to get through my to-do list as much as I possibly can, and then I can have a relaxed state of mind as well, to not feel guilty about taking some time off as well, because I knew I've done a lot, basically all I could do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you talked a little bit about the preparation, but also just planning and execution at the same time. And I think this is very powerful, because I mean, it was a similar thing for me last week. Like before Friday, we were off, and then Thursday I worked quite long, so I had a really long day because I wanted to like pump everything in. And today I came in, and this is what I see all often when you start a week, that it's good to know what you want to accomplish that week. I don't know how you do it, but I just need to have something in mind, or at least I need to force myself to have, maybe 3, 5 things that I want to hit that week, because otherwise you just roam around. Even though I'm just staring at my vision board, I'm like, yeah, what does it mean? That's
Yeah.
beautiful. That, fit body, and what does it mean? Do I that maybe translates into 5 workouts per week, or whatever that I wanna. And by the way, just talking about vision board, you made it on my vision board. Just
Oh,
that you
did
know,
I?
you
Yes.
did. You made it in a section of love and connection and relationship. So
Very good.
just
So
very good.
I
Very
feel very honored. One
um,
of my achievements as
no, I
well.
just wanted to. That's obviously a big accomplishment, but no, joking
You
aside,
need to take a screenshot of that and share it in the comments later on if you dare to share your vision board with the rest of your
I
audience.
can definitely share some of the parts. Yeah, it could be. I think it could be interesting anyway to have a maybe session on. I'm not the
Yeah.
expert on doing a vision board, but we did it actually quite late.
Who is an expert? Like, show me an expert who specializes in creating business and life vision boards.
I think they are. I actually knew somebody. I think friend of Kate's, my spouse. She actually specializes in this, and that's. I think it's this notion that when somebody knows, 5% more than you in this topic, we regard them as an expert.
Could
And
be.
this is exactly like, probably you're right. I mean, I just think, okay, I want this and I want that, and these are the sections of my life I want to put in there. But also on this, I just realized like a lot of the topics now, and we're gonna be guys diving very soon into the last three.
Stick around.
I just realized that how life flows in a certain way, and everybody has a different thing. We human beings decided that we have this 12 months to accomplish something. But oftentimes, when I look at my accomplishment, it stretches way beyond what I set
Mm,
out to do. And I remember one time as well, when I was writing what I want to accomplish, I actually was calling with you, and you said, how about you think about how it feels for you, how you're in a situation, how does it feel, what type of team you have, what is the atmosphere. And I had to laugh the other day because I was saying it to Kate, and I'm like, yeah, Timi actually gave me this idea, and I was doing it while I was preparing the vision board, because I was thinking, oh, this is really a great gateway or segue to getting into the right state of mind,
mm, definitely.
like accomplishing it. And so yeah, that's, I think, also showed that this whole planning, sometimes we say end of the year I need to plan my vision board, didn't work for me this year. I had my old one, but until March, April, I didn't get anything done.
Yeah, but you see, you don't have to feel guilty about it. That's what I was smiling because maybe a few years ago you would have been like so stressed out about
I
it, and
would.
you would be
Exactly.
beating yourself up like I couldn't accomplish my goals. So what? At least you tried. You had some goals, right?
Well, I mean, and that's the thing, right? Like if we think about 99% of people who just go with the flow, they don't set goals. And
Mm,
and I mean, there is no right or wrong way to do it. But I always believe, probably like yourself, you would like to be in charge of your life. You don't like to end up somewhere. Occasionally, I mean, that happens so often that we end up somewhere we don't plan to be. But it's a different thing than if you have a purpose, and if you know where you're going in life. I think that just gives you a little bit more certainty and confidence to complete your days, and feel like especially in your line of business, because I see, sometimes you write like this, and then you're writing about marketing, and then you like think about this guys. And then it gets into the nitty gritty. Working with the clients, it probably gives you amazing accomplishment and amazing feeling when you do something which comes from this bigger vision to towards down to, hey, I'm actually doing what I love.
yeah, especially as well if you know that there's a direction that you're heading to and you know where you are going, you're also not going to feel that confused and lost along the journey. So, if for nothing else, just for that one reason, it's already worth like having some high level or long term vision in your mind. Because once you know, like maybe I'm not sure how I'm going to get there, or I'm not sure exactly when I'm going to get there, but I know like this is the direction that I'm heading. At least you're not going to feel those heavy questions weighing you down, like why am I here, where am I going, what's the purpose of life, and such fun topics.
I mean, it's again, guys, you probably recognize by now that we do a little bit more practical and pragmatic sessions. But I think thinking about a principle today, the first one, it's, you might be thinking we were kind of, kidding around and talking around, but actually it connects really nicely to the principle that we want to talk about. Timi, you want to introduce the first one?
Yes, it's definitely about the annual and yearly planning as well. So I really loved reading the concepts as well about today's topic. And then this one, the first one, is definitely one of my personal favorites as well. The way you phrased it is that we should be making ourselves an annual or a yearly project. And I think it was such a beautiful term because we are so accustomed to setting up specific goals and KPIs and metrics and targets. But when it comes to our own selves, we should be our number one project that we want to be working on throughout the year. And I think it's absolutely essential that we are setting up self up not for failure or not for success, but finding the kind of middle ground where you know that I know this kind of stuff, so I need to push myself a little bit more to achieve something differently or do something from a different perspective or angle. But at the same time, don't set yourself goals or objectives that are completely impossible for you to reach. So maybe you think, okay, maybe you're in a mid-management position right now, and you think by the end of the year, I want to run $100 million enterprise, I don't know, with 20 million employees or something crazy and unrealistic. So just understand yourself as well. How can you stretch yourself to a way that is going to make you feel more motivated throughout, and you're not going to be going against your own capabilities or your own skill set, maybe your expertise. I was going to highlight this before we dive deeper into this topic because I know it's really important to add a little caveat here that yes, you need to kind of stretch yourself and stretch your character as well as you go along with it, but making sure that you're not setting yourself something unrealistic, because then you're just going to feel really demotivated throughout the process, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I might play a little devil advocate in this regard because I'm
Always.
actually the guy who does a lot of this, setting unrealistic stuff. And I have to agree with you on one bit that it happens occasionally that you feel like, you're demotivated or you are not, you're like, "Boy, I'm still so far from this. Like, did I even start?" And it can be very hard. And this is also why we put this at the center, make yourself a yearly project as at a first kind of today's topic, because I feel it dives deeper than what Timmy said. It's not just about the goals and all these things, but it's about having fun and about character that Timmy already mentioned, and stretching yourself, shaping yourself, but also your skills. What we discussed this in the other sessions. How do you use those skills to get further and bridge the gap where you're today and where you need to go? But also doing something that really changes you profoundly, because sometimes, and this is what I realized, and also I always like coming back to your thing, going to Sri Lanka and kind of, whatever that reason was, going there to shaking up the ground a little bit and figuring out where you want to go. Like before we started, you were talking about, okay, I moved then to Barcelona and then, into this role. But it's also something we talked with Kate, actually, my partner this year, that we want to do a yoga retreat. And I've never done that before. I always was like, yoga, it's for ladies, no offense, ladies. But then I went into it and I figured, wow, this is next level. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I agree with you on that front as well. That because I'm a serial offender as well when it comes to setting unrealistic goals, and that's exactly why I wanted to share this with people who are maybe listening now or watching this later. Because I would recommend, if you are going to set yourself some annual goals or some ultimate long-term vision for yourself, yes, by all means, be brave and think big, but don't make every single one of your goals, in unrealistic, because that's when you are setting yourself up for failure. Let me give you an example. Maybe, I don't know, if I had set myself 10 sort of goals for this year, maybe two of them will be ridiculously crazy sounding to some people. And they were like, how are you going to ever achieve that? And maybe somewhere I know as well that maybe I'm not going to completely get there, but at least if I keep that in my mind, that I'm going to get as close to it as I possibly can. But then I also make sure that I set myself goals that are definitely something I can achieve with some resilience and with some dedication. Not just something that, like, maybe let's wake up every morning, great, I did it, I accomplished my goals, amazing. But things like, I'm going to, right now, one of my goals is improving my Spanish, because I live in a Spanish speaking country. So by now I should be able to communicate a little bit better. So every morning I spend 1 hour a day on Duolingo practicing my Spanish. So that's something that I can take day by day and keep pushing myself towards it. And it's not such an unrealistic goal for me to hit. But some of my other goals are a lot bigger and maybe a little bit more scarier as well. So again, balance is always that something keeps coming up in our conversations, and I think there is a reason behind it, because even here, when you are working on yourself and you become your focus project for the year basically, and you build everything else around that and what you want to improve about you as a leader or as a person, that's how you can build realistic steps towards achieving your vision, basically, in short. Sounds
Yeah.
easy, right?
Sounds easy, is not. We know, and this is also wanna put a little touch up on this, and that is focusing on daily little steps. I know you're a big one on this step as well. Doing, what are the first 3 steps? What are the first 5, 10? Because this is something I'm coming more towards the way you're thinking. Because I know I'm a visionary. I like to paint beautiful vision, but I always have my partner who questions me, and she's like, "Where are you at that? You bought those 10 courses. What have you done?" And this time I'm like, I want to be good at these 3 things. That means I need to do course A, B, and C. When am I gonna do it? When is it in the calendar? And even if I don't do it that day, I know I feel guilty to some extent. I get reminders. I'm like, or my partner or you ask me, "Hey, where are you at?" And I'm like, "Oh, I said I want to do that." And this is the thing, like a lot of the unsexy stuff that seems like, oh, it's nice to paint a beautiful vision and you're like, I'm gonna be there and I'm 10 years. And this is also why it takes a lot of pressure off if you have like a longer term vision. Because for me now, at least, maybe it's a little bit of sandbagging, if you will, and not creating my vision until March, because I know I will be already accomplishing something. Put it on a vision board. I'm like, I did
Done.
that. A little bit cheating, if you will. So it's I
It's
think
good. Whatever works for you, I think, and
exactly
that's
whatever rocks your boat, man.
absolutely fine.
Just one last thing I want to add to it is really doing your best every day. And I think this is the hard part. I see it with myself. I see it with people I talk to. I don't know how you think about it, but like summoning the best of who you are every day, I think is the hardest part and the most important thing as well, because
It's
it
impossible.
yeah, I
Let me
mean,
give you a secret.
it is absolutely, but just having this and it's not about perfection, right? We're not talking about perfection. We're talking about, like, this morning I woke up and everything what we were talking about, I just didn't feel for it. I knew I have to
Mm,
work, and I went from wellness weekend, being in sauna, walking, meditating, doing nothing, to full blown meetings, goals, everything. And
yeah.
I felt uncomfortable. I
Yeah.
I was thinking, how can I do it? And I knew the only way how I can overcome it is really remind myself that I want to show up at my best, not because to impress people, but because this is who I am as a human being. And that also means, look, doing these little things, like little routine things, like doing a workout, going quickly for a walk, drinking something healthy, or maybe looking over my goals and vision board and saying, okay, what is the first thing I'm gonna tip over? And I mean, a lot of that things gets very needy gritty, and it's not just only the vision board that inspires you. And you're like, okay, what am I doing?
Now
And
what?
it's hard. It's hard, like you said. Sometimes it is impossible. There are days I'm like, I'm lost. I don't know, how does it look for
You
you?
just need to let go. That's the thing, because when you have those days that you don't feel like doing it, just allow yourself to have a bad day. You're not here to grind yourself to exhaustion by, what you said as well. I think when we started chatting about, like, me forcing myself doing something, yes, I see the point, like motivating myself or encouraging myself. But if you have to reach a point when you say, I'm forcing myself to do something, that's a clear indicator that maybe you should have just let that day slide a little bit and not give it your 110%, even if it means like coming back to work. And you're not the only person feeling that way. I remember back in the days after a long weekend, no one is going to be super productive on the first working day after a longer holiday. And that's actually expected. But I used to do resource planning. We knew exactly that after a long a public holiday or a long weekend, we had to schedule more people on shift because people are going to be a lot less productive. It's normal, it's human behavior. So what I want to add as a little side note here, that if you do feel like that, today is not my best day, okay, try to make some subtle changes and try to, as you said, go for a walk or drink something healthy or look at your vision board and remind yourself where you are going and where you want to get to. And if you still feel like, you know what, like today is a no day, it's fine. Allow yourself to have a no day, but don't make a habit out of it. But if you do maybe once a month or once a quarter, that's absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with it. And allow yourself to chill a little bit and just go off track and let go of the plan and let go of the how, and just trust your own resilience that, okay, I need a break. My body is telling me I need a break. My mind is telling me I need a break. So I'm going to follow suit. And even if it means that I have to reschedule a couple of meetings because I know I'm not going to be my best I'm not going to be my best performance, it's not good for everyone if I'm forcing myself to do the presentation, to have that performance review with that person. If it really isn't the right day, I'm just causing more harm to those people that are going to be surrounded in that situation. So yeah, I'm also playing the
Devil's
devil's
advocate.
advocate.
No, it's absolutely right. And I like this because I feel like talking about a first principle, making yourself a priority for the year or a yearly project. This is how I see myself, because I'm a lot just like maybe you back then, coming from obsession and having goals and accomplishing them. And it helped me. But I realized at that point and time I am in life, it doesn't always work. It makes me cranky, it makes me unhappy, and also like the day when I start to recognizing body cycles, being, that I know that sometimes I can be way more productive in the evening than in the morning. I tried to reprioritize my agenda, and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have those calls in the morning, even though I'm high energy, but still I feel like for some reason
Yeah.
it's not me. I cannot put my best forward. So I definitely have to give you, pat on the shoulder and hug for this, because I think this is a big reminder for me and for a lot of people out there who are grinders, so to speak, and need to learn to let go of things and our way that how things should be and how we should feel. Because then again, coming back to reality, you can create these inconsistencies in your mindset and in your thinking, that you think like, I have to be a certain way. Yes, you need to be a performer, but also you need to find your way. And I mean, there are millions and millions of different ways to be a high performer, right?
Yes. Otherwise, you just forget to live, and that's quite sad.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's that word, the conclusion to that one. So, Timmy,
Yes.
what about a second principle? You want to talk about it?
Yes, that's a really good one as well. I really like your way of writing and the sort of terms that you come up with. And this really caught my attention because you mentioned that one of the, I think it's the 17th principle now, or is it the 18th? I think the 17th. Yeah, become a magnet for people, and that is such a cool term, I think, because it really has so many deep layers of explanation of what it means. To me personally, it means as well that whatever you do and whatever you're putting out in the world, it does come back to you, and then you end up attracting those things. And maybe some of you who are watching have heard these expressions like you attract similar people around you, or you attracted this, and those kind of saying, or you manifested this, etc. So in my translation, becoming a magnet for people, it translates to that if I know what kind of people I want to surround myself with, I'm going to act and behave like those people. So if I know that I want people to be respectful, to be polite, to be, I don't know, to have good intentions, I'm going to have to be doing those things. If I want people around me to act in or behave in that way, if I want the, I don't know, the company culture to become more, I don't know, more relaxed or more punctual, whatever it is that you want to do, start doing those little changes within you, because that's how you start showing an example to other people around you as well, especially as a leader. As a leader, your team is going to be looking up to you and they are going to be copying your behavior. So imagine if one of your vision board elements have this super cool image of you being a leader in a really innovative company. Everyone is creative and they bring these amazing ideas forward, but what you're doing in reality is you're actually getting close off of people and you're not allowing them to speak up, and you're also not sharing your own visions. Is that company ever going to become innovative? Probably no, because you are going to be displaying a certain behavior and the rest of the team will follow suit, whether they want it or not. Over time, they will be influenced by your own behavior. So to me, I think it's super important that you set your intentions, whatever you do, and figure out what is it that I'm trying to achieve here. Doesn't matter what scenario we're talking about, if it's with your planning your vision or if it's your day-to-day activities at work or when you go home to your family. But what are my intentions? Do I want to make my day or my year or my life a little bit better? Do I want to make my family's, my colleagues' life a little bit happier? If yes, what can I do to do that? And how can I do that for me? Because remember the previous point that it's project me, okay? So it starts with me. So in my translation, that's probably what I would highlight here, that whatever you do really influences what you attract around you, especially when it comes to your communities and the people that you are going to be pulling into your life, either at work or just in your day-to-day life.
Yeah, and you took a little wind from my ship, but
Oh, apologies.
no,
You
no,
see, the magnet works.
no, it's perfect. I just want to add to this that, guys, we live in an age of personal branding, and this is what Timi, I think, is great at. From your time of branding, consulting, and marketing to what you're doing now, it's still about selling yourself. And a lot of the interviews I look at from different companies I worked for, a lot of the questions that came, or kind of interpretation from those discussions, was everybody sells. Even if you're in a relationship, you influence. If you want to go on vacation, I have this discussion a couple times a year with my spouse, who always wants to pull me somewhere, and I say, okay, maybe not. And I
Or
know
where
she
to
has a
go
hard
for
time.
dinner. That's a big one.
Exactly, and we just had that, or have it recently. These type of discussions where you need to influence your partner, and I see my partner became very good at influencing me, and I wasn't, giving you a little hint for the last principle, talking about little travel and other things. I wasn't always the best advocate to really advocate this, because I never really traveled beside Europe and stuff. But it really shows when you are an influencer, and this is also to all the points that Timmy mentioned. We need to learn to let go, to look in a certain way, and be focused on who you are, and really grow into it. A lot of the good advice I got from people, preparing for interviews or just going into project, is be you. And I was surprised from C-level executives what I would be said, just have go to market plan, and focus on your cash flow and all these different things. They say, hey, just be you. I'm like, that's it. It's like, yeah, that's it. And I
That's
can't,
the
I couldn't
most
grasp it for
difficult
years.
part.
Sorry, what did you say?
I was gonna say that is the most difficult part when you don't know who you are.
Yeah, no, this is exactly, absolutely. And I know you could elaborate on this. This is a huge point. And like everything that I see, also how you serve out there, and more you shine, more you know yourself, most likely. A lot of the people who shine out there, everybody started with different reasons, and obviously a different stage than they are at, like you started a couple of years ago with different thing where you were than you are today. But I can see how you grow, I can see how you move forward, and you design your life by your by your terms, by your means. And that meant a lot of these discussions, a lot of bumping your head against the wall, trying stuff out, wasn't it?
Too many, too
Too
many
many.
times, probably too many times. But that I think really comes down to that point as well when you said just be you, because that is literally my core value and my life philosophy, that I made this vow to myself a good few years ago. And that was before I started traveling, and we get to that third point very soon. But I made this vow to myself, and I realized that I need to be in situations where I can be completely myself, meaning my real, authentic, genuine self. And I know the word authentic might be a little bit overused, but I still personally love it. So I'm going to use it here. So please bear with me. But if you can allow yourself to be in situations when you can fully be just you, the real you, the kind of you that you would be with your best friends or your closest family, if you can do that at work, still in a professional setting, but you can do that at work, and you can allow your weirdness to come into play at work, and you can allow your creativity to shine when you come up with strategies, or when you speak to customers, or when you close a new client. That's when you can really have a lot of fun as a leader as well. And that's how you end up showing a great example to the rest of your team, because by doing that, by really allowing yourself to be the real you even at work, you're going to be making a major impact on people around you, because they will see like, look at this guy, he's so crazy at work, he's coming in with his smoothies and he's doing his workouts and he's talking about this and that. But you're probably influencing a lot of people already with that, with you just being you at work. And many years ago, I'm gonna skip back a few more years before I figured this little truth out. I felt really frustrated, because I felt that I need to make some kind of an impact. You know, when we have this drive, like, I need to make a difference, like, life is too short, I need to do something good here. And I just didn't know what it was, and I kept feeling really frustrated at myself for not having the idea, like not having like, what is that big idea, like how am I going to save the world? I think a lot of people who are watching this have went through something similar. There you go. And one day the biggest sort of mindset shift happened, that I was just having a relaxed chat with one of my team members, and she told me that, oh, you made such a big impact on me. And I was like, but like, how? What? I didn't do anything. And that's when it hit me that those little daily behaviors I was doing already at work, they were influencing people around me already. I was already making a positive impact on a lot of people. And I just didn't realize it. It didn't click in my mind. By me being kind and helpful and supportive to people around me at work, influenced how they felt at work, how they went home after work, how they behaved with their friends, with their partnerships, etc. So never underestimate the kindness actually that you can create in someone else's life, just by you setting the right intentions and you allowing yourself to be you. So it is a big topic, and we could go like in so many layers into this, but I absolutely loved this, reading this um, snippet that you mentioned, that's becoming the magnet for people, because yes, that's exactly what it is. Like, what you are and how you behave will end up attracting similar people around you. So it's up to you. What do you want? And just be that.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, I mean, isn't that simple, the way you put it? It really comes through trying to figure stuff out, bumbling, and meeting different people and figuring out what you don't want, and that comes also with time. I think
Mm.
that's something what I learned, like taking off the pressure, like you said, to the point of, I want to make a difference, I want to change the world. And to your points as well about humility and kindness, I think this is something where, guys, I would encourage you really to focus on yourself. If you've been, the person who's overgiving, overstepping your boundaries and stuff, again, this is not, I'm not an expert on this topic, but a lot of you out there might have this issue that you just want to help, and that's a good thing, but sometimes you don't have any energy in a tank, and you didn't do all the above, all the principles we were talking about: taking care of yourself, eating healthy, and being in the right environment. And then, like, to your point, to me as well, when you do that, you can really shine your light. And sometimes we look for these extraordinary very ways how to elevate others, and it's really the daily thing. This is what I'm trying to remind myself every day when I'm in a supermarket, to say, hey, do you want to go in front of me? And just, maybe it's not important for that person, but maybe they say thank you, but it's important for me that I did that I did that kind
Mhm.
of act, and that I laughed at the pandemic nations of people who actually are not positive, and who are, struggling because of paying their bills, because of not doing their passion, being employed by the wrong company, etc., etc., etc. So these little things, and just like this session, it's not it's again a little bit selfish for myself to talk to Timi because I know I feel better after that.
It's not
Even
selfish at all. It's about you taking care of yourself. There's
that's
nothing
the
wrong with it.
thing,
And I
right?
enjoy talking to you.
Right,
So
right.
you're not forcing me to do this.
No, exactly. And I mean, for a lot of you guys out there, you need to find your habits to elevate yourself first and then elevate others.
Mhm.
Timmy gave you a handful of examples. You can do, courses, you can do read a good book, but often really you need this goodness to be, to be busting in your ears because I see it with myself, and I really think I'm a positive, optimistic guy after those years. But I still need those reminders, like Timmy just said. Let go. Today is not your day. It's fine. You're gonna get at it tomorrow or the day after. If you're slipping for month 2, 3, then I
Different
think
story.
then you need to talk to Timmy.
That's a
To get a
different
little
story. That
slap.
watch this again and they'll be like, oh no, I misunderstood that advice.
Yeah.
There was one little thing I was going to add here as well. When it's about setting your intentions, if you can really clarify with yourself, and you're absolutely right, because it starts with you. It really starts with you, either at work or at home or whatever you want to achieve as a go-getter in life. It starts with you. So even if you feel that you're here to help and support others, if you're not helping and supporting yourself, there is not much you can do. And there's a really, really good saying. I have no idea who said it, so apologies, but it's so simple. But the saying goes, you cannot pour from an empty cup. And that is something that really helps me shape my own mindset. I used to have this tendency to overgive and trying to save the world and then save me. And I call this the Mother Teresa syndrome. And I even have a tattoo from Mother Teresa on my arm to remind me of this. Because if you're not filling up your own cup, how are you expecting to pour from that cup to someone else? Like, I don't know who said this, but I think it's just such a beautiful saying, because it perfectly sums up what you're explaining here as well. So yeah, if you're watching this, start with you. Make the number one project to be you, and work your way through that lens and through that perspective. Like, if I'm helping this cause, if I'm helping this company, if I'm helping this manager, if I'm helping this family member, is it really helping with my own development? Do I have the energy to give to this company, to this person, to this cause, etc.? If the answer is no, you can always politely decline it. You don't have to be like an arrogant person, like, no, I'm not helping you. You can be intelligent and kind, and maybe find someone else who can help out instead. But if it's a no day, then don't force yourself of doing things you don't want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the last point, I know, guys, we are stucking the point on the top of each other, and the last, and the last, and the last. We now currently reading an interesting book with my spouse about the inner child, and I think it's a interesting supplementation to the book from Jay Shetty on love. And I realized that a lot of these topics, like the inner child and the boundaries, I read another book on this, is we don't think about it actively until a later age. We just inherited something from maybe our bosses, maybe our teams, our culture, our parents, and then we figure out later on, when we really hit our head a couple times in the same spot, that no, we need to get new tactics, new
Yep.
learnings, and implement something else. So I encourage you to be a learner and to study and get around to me, get around myself, get around people that you love, and to get different inputs. I got this input the other day from my colleague, and he said, "It's so cool what you do on LinkedIn. I'm just gonna follow you." And he's in a different sphere, like more design and stuff. But he said it's very cool that you just the way you think about things, and I really want to encourage you to use your humility and use your power to share your gift. It doesn't have to be through this format, but it can be, to the point what I said, build your personal brand, build your own way of thinking, and piggyback on those. By the way, coming to the quote, those grades, I think it's from Jeff Fleming, the quote.
Really?
At least it might be from, but at least this is.
Whoever knows, please tell me, because I would love to know. I
Well,
even started my ebook that I've written a couple of years ago with this quote as well, because I just love it so much.
really,
Yes.
Timmy, Can you
Yes.
introduce us to the last principle?
Always my favorite topic is travel. So why are we talking about traveling if we are talking about self-leadership? Well, it's hopefully you should know this by now, but if not, let us introduce this topic that when you are putting yourself into a different environment, and that comes with traveling because you're going from A to B. And by travel, I'm not even talking about going to another continent or into a completely different country. By removing yourself from your familiar and known environment, which is literally your neighborhood, your office, your house, the restaurants you go to, the park you go to, etc. But changing your surroundings and going into a different environment really changes your mindset. If you can do that on a sort of long haul, even better. So if you can remove yourself and explore a different culture, a different environment, like actually with the earth and everything that surrounds you, the nature and all, that's when you really have deep inner sort of shifts happening in you somehow. And I think one of the reasons is that because you're going to be getting all these new experiences into your day-to-day situation that you have not experienced or have not seen before, you start using your brain a little bit differently, or your emotions as well. And it means that you're going to learn something new by having a conversation with a local who lives, I don't know, 5,000 miles away from you in a different continent that you never visited. So they are going to have different sort of cultural associations or belief systems that are maybe very different to what you have. I'll give you a few examples of my own experiences. Okay, just it easier to to show. So we're going small and we're going big after. Okay, so I was born in Hungary, which is next to Austria, where you just went to having a little mini holiday. So the kind of cultural um, trait that we have as a nation is that you have to work hard, you have to be on time, and you have to be reliable. That's the kind of morale we have at work when it comes to working. So when I moved from Hungary at the age of 18, never worked in Hungary. So I have to put this as a little side note that even though I never worked in Hungary because I was so young when I moved, I was only 18, I still carried this cultural trait with me to going to living in the UK, when the work morale is a lot different. There are a lot more, social, like let's go for a drink after work, let's go have lunch together, and oh, it's okay, we can call in sick if you don't feel like. It was a very different sort of, and I'm not trying to generalize, a lot of great workforces that are in the UK as well. I'm just trying to show you the difference that I think it really shows that just by going to another country and not even so far away from each other, and I'm only talking about the work setup at this stage, it really showed me that some of these imprints that we have on us, that's something that we have been hearing from our parents, from our colleagues, our friends, etc., or even in the TV growing up or in the movies and things like that, they really make a mark and they really influence how we think about such a thing like how you should behave at work and what sort of work morale you have. But then when I moved from the UK to Malta, which is a very Mediterranean country, that was a major culture shock for me because I love Maltese people and I love Malta as a country as well. They really know how to live and they really know how to just not really worry if the report is not ready, not really worry if they haven't figured out the processes yet, not worry if they don't turn up for a meeting on time. That's fine. That's part of their work morale and work culture. And you're not going to get in trouble by, I don't know, taking a 2-hour lunch break because you felt like having a nice chat with your colleagues. As long as the work is done, it's fine. And if not done, still fine. But that was again another shift for me from the UK, where these things are, you have a lot of processes and it's structured and you have the hierarchy. And my partner actually calls the UK is the land of the managers because you have, like, I don't know, a middle manager, a team leader, another manager. Everyone is managing everything but themselves. But but when you go to Malta, it was the opposite. So even just on the work front, it already showed me two very different ways of working compared to the one that I was bringing with me from my own cultural background, being born in Hungary and having been influenced by that sort of almost communist kind of work morale, because my parents grew up in the communism. So for them, they had to do that. So it was influencing my generation still, even though I never worked a day in Hungary because I left after I finished school. And then when I went from Malta and ended up in Sri Lanka, and I was thinking about starting a business there, I realized that I just couldn't fit into that culture at all, because my culture that I was bringing with me, work ethic wise, absolutely I couldn't adapt to the local on disorganized culture, which is perfectly beautiful as well, and I love that country. It just shows that it shows you new things. And then what I learned from all of these different elements, that neither of us are right, and there isn't one way that is the right way. But I learned a lot from the Maltese culture, and I learned to let go and not stress so much. So when I felt like I can't finish this report, I'm not going to stay up until 2 in the morning. I'm going to go home, sleep it off, and then maybe I wake up an hour early and then finish it if I really have to. And what I learned from the UK as well is that it's perfectly fine to become friends with your colleagues and can all go out together and have a really cool social environment at work. So I think when you are traveling, and this is just sort of the work setups that I'm mentioning, it will show you and teach you new ways of how you could be living your life and how you could be behaving in certain scenarios or situations. And again, let me highlight, there isn't one way that is the right way. There isn't one country that has it figured out. But take away what works for you and mold it into your own way of living. And I think personally for me, that's what really shaped me, by seeing a lot of different cultures and meeting a lot of people from all over the world and having those conversations and listening to their hardships, to their stories. They really put things into perspective. And I think you're gonna say something similar. Maybe I already took the wind from your sailing boat again.
I mean, you definitely did, but I think it's beautiful because that's why we hang out. We are similar people, and I also moved from Eastern Europe to the Netherlands, where I had similar experience in that regard. And I always, funny enough, like maybe 10 years back, already then I thought, if I could give somebody number one advice, if they ask, so what would your life advice be? I would say, move to a different country.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something like you got to first figure out what type of person you are. And I brought with me similar mindset, like you work hard, all how my parents grew up. It's just all similar in Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
But also just being open and adaptive to where you're at. Because I've really quickly figured, and this was also more maybe difficult down the road, I became expert at adapting.
Mm-hmm.
I learned the language. I mimicked the people to some extent, or even the language after a couple of years that people thought that I was a native, that I was coming
Wow.
from that country. And also eventually started losing some of the heritage that I had in a brackets or air quotes, that I figured, hey, I had to start asking a lot of these questions that we were talking about. What's your purpose? Who are you? And what makes you who you are? And really quickly you come back to where you come from. And I'm very grateful today where I come from, although I don't live there anymore, just like yourself, because I know I have this heart of a giver, heart of a person who wants to help, like yourself, make a difference, but also this pragmatism. Hey, let's get stuff done. And I always believe that if you want to give somebody advice, live it first. And this is why, like talking to somebody like you who lived, maybe 3-4 different countries, it becomes fun, because then eventually you can have a shared or voice and opinion, because you had to adjust, and you had some responsibilities for yourself, but also for the team, and for, overall, you found your way. And I think it's brilliant. A lot of the points, I mean, I don't have to repeat them, because it is like, it makes you, and I think to put the cherry on the top, it makes you wiser when you make smarter decisions along the way, or when you decide to, let's put it like this, it makes you wiser when you take action.
Absolutely.
Because when you are bold, and it might not be immediately, but like you said, in the UK, it was a hierarchy. You learn your lessons, and you go to different country. You're like, and you always retrospect and reflect how I am against the other things, and then eventually you mold yourself into who you are. And I think more true to who you are and who you want to become, you become happier and more satisfied and content with what you are. And this is kind of what I'm learning from you a lot, this let go and just chill and relax. And it's okay if you're 4 days not working. I'm like, oh, that's new.
Like, I can't do that.
And I actually, yeah. And I mean, if you think about it, it's a lot of the, like, if you would go into psychology and maybe even deeper, it's a lot of fear, a lot of like fear of missing out, a lot of things that a lot of executives need to learn just to cope with, just being busy for the sake of being busy, being perceived that you do something instead of, hey, I'm actually producing, I'm working on what matters. But it is a huge point. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
and I was going to say about that as well. You've actually mentioned a really good point about the executive culture as well, because I think something is really shifting in the workspace as well, that people are now more open to, or companies are now more open to, remote working. And I think because of that, a lot of companies now realizing that just clocking in and clocking out doesn't always get the job done. But if they allow people to use their time more wisely, what you mentioned earlier, now you're realizing that you are more creative or active in the afternoon. So now you can maybe reshuffle your daily schedule to do the heavy lifting in the afternoon. Versus maybe a few years ago, a lot of companies forced you, again, the word that we don't like using, forced you into a rigid structure that you have to be there at 9 o'clock, you have to stay until 5, and the longer you stay, the better, because it looks like you're doing a lot. But maybe you're just lazy and inefficient and you don't know how to get your work done in 8 hours. Clearly, that could be another reason for that as well. So I think what is shifting now is that companies are more accepting the fact that if they allow their teams to do their work on their own terms, and if they give the freedom to their employees and to their teams to use your own body clock, just get the work done. Like, it doesn't matter when it's done, but just get it done. I would love to see more of these happening actually around, but I think it's already happening, because what happens is that going all the way to the top, to that executive culture, when you are like, I have to, like, feel guilty if I'm not doing any work, it will slowly disappear. Because if we're not putting these pressures onto senior leaders and executives, and we're not expecting them to be there 10-15 hour days and to show up every single meeting 5-10 minutes early, but at the same time we know that they're getting their job done, we know that they are leading the company or the team or the division, this pressure will disappear over time. It's not going to happen obviously within a day or even a year probably, but I think it's slowly fading. And I would love to see taking that stress away from people, especially in leadership positions, because as a leader you are leading people, and you cannot lead efficiently if you are stressing out, and because you feel that I cannot take a 2 hour lunch break if I feel like, because I don't know, your friend is visiting you in your city and you really want to catch up with them, because you have to go back, because you have to, I don't know, whatever, like work 10-15 hour days. It's insane. That's not healthy for anyone, and it doesn't lead to productivity at all. So I'm being hopeful that I think things are shifting and changing, especially with the whole remote work scenario. But a little side note before we wrap this session up, the remote work bit, because we have to share, I think, as well with the audience. I don't think we spoke about this. Remember 2019, the summer of 2019, when we were trying to
Young
change the
and free.
world. Yes, when we were trying to think about like a couple of like business ideas to come together and do a
I
project
remember.
together
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So that was the three of us. There was a third person as well involved back then. So we had like proper like brainstorming sessions. We were like super organized, meeting up like every week or every other week, trying to come up with the business idea. And we had a list of I think 10 ideas or so, and we picked one which was about introducing or helping companies transition into remote working. And we started sort of working on that. So that's, I think, a little bit funny looking back, that had we pursued it maybe back then, we would be maybe talking about something a different kind of topic. But the moral of the story is that it didn't feel right at the time. That's what I was trying to get to. Was it a missed opportunity? Gigantic. Yes, we missed a major opportunity there, but it didn't feel aligned and something was off. And that's why we sort of, one of the reasons why we ditched it. So whatever is happening in your life, even if you feel that the work is not the right fit for you, or maybe you can't travel as much as you want to, or you can't always be on your best behavior or feeling always optimistic, it's fine. But feel your way into your day, and maybe that's the best way of explaining it. Like, if something feels off, it probably is. And even if you're going to force yourself and push through it, it's not going to bring you the long-term result. Maybe it can bring you a quick financial result, but that will go, that will fade. You can spend money and it will go away, but you cannot ever earn back the time you spent on doing something you didn't like doing.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, this is the. Or was there another point to add?
mm,
Because I think this was a great conclusion. A lot of people out there will not blink with this and say, well, I'm okay with going to do my job 9 to 5. It's not what I like, but I still do it because it pays the bills. And there's a lot of people out there like that. And I don't judge you, I don't criticize you, but I know that it is hard to pick yourself up and say, I actually don't agree with what I'm doing. I don't agree with the way I'm thinking. I don't agree how I could be expressing my potential, and hence I'm gonna do about it something and express it in a way. But I want to encourage you guys to really find your way. Just like Timi said, you can force yourself. I've done it for years and it worked, but eventually you need to carve your own path. You need to find your way of thinking and operating. And again, like we said, there is a lot of people on the planet. We just crossed 8 billion people. It's insane. But there's a lot of people who solve similar problem, and reinventing the wheel, like I always do, often do, is not always the best. But look out there. If you need to solve something, reach out or look out there and try to find a creative solution for it while expressing yourself, because overall, if you're not gonna do it, you probably will be unhappy down the road. And I think you don't need to be millionaire, you don't need to be Oprah Winfrey or Barack Obama. You need to be you. And as cliche as it sounds, people need you. For some reason, you've been put on this planet to make somebody else's day bright or brighter. And this is what Timmy does with me, and I do with her, and we do with other people in our lives. So remember to, make this year about you. I know this is also what we often don't think about, because we think about all the goals and stuff, but the goals will evolve, just like Timmy said, from you. If you deepen that knowledge, if you deepen, and it's often boring to journal, to meditate, to do the exercise, to talk to people. I'm like, well, I experienced this. I'm like, again.
But it's so worth it. And you will see that, after maybe a few months or a few years down the line, and you look back and you realize that you just became a complete different person in everything that you do. And I think even when we first met as well, we are completely different people who we were back then, because we keep evolving and we keep bettering ourselves. And it doesn't mean that we have better than everyone else, but according to who we were on our individual levels, we are better. I would love to think and say as well that both of us are better than who we were a few years ago compared to who we were back then. And that's the key of the whole self-leadership topic completely, is to show you some tips and show you some tactics or methods or tools that can help you become better than who you were yesterday. Don't, as you mentioned, like, you don't have to become the new Oprah, but it would be cool. I would love to be the new Oprah, but
You already are in
not
your
yet,
own
not yet.
way. And
Going
I
there.
mean, it just shows, like, to the point about being a people magnet. This is why we hang out after those years. It's beautiful. I'm every time honored and amazed with people I meet. And with you, I love these exchanges, because we have a quite despite the fact that we met only a few times in our life face to face, we
Yes.
talked a lot. And you're one of the closer friends. As I said, you ended up on my vision board. And it's really, really cool to have these discussions, because I every time I think, like, how Timmy would think about this marketing or this strategy or this. And then it's also being vulnerable to ask, and you're like, hey, forget that, think about this. And I think this is the beauty of having friendships like this, because you have like this distance that we now can already think about, because from whatever 2017, whenever it was. I mean, it's almost 6 years. It's
I
insane.
know.
Just like
How?
from being meetings at a random place to exchanging, doing podcasts, and now we do these lives together. And it's hopefully inspiring people, or you guys out there, and helping you to think more about yourself. So as a last point, remember to travel, remember to do cool thing, maybe move to a country or move house. If you lived in the same house for 20 years, maybe it's time to change scenery. um, and any conclusion, any final thoughts from you to me?
I just wanted to say as well a massive well done and a thank you to you for your resilience for making this happen. And I think I might have mentioned this a few sessions ago, but without you, this would have never been possible to happen, because you are one of the most resilient people I've met in my life. So I think that's something that people can really look up to you for as well. That once you have something in your mind, yes, you will push through, and you will sometimes force yourself to do it. So maybe it's something you need to work on a little bit, but on the external, it helps others a lot. So it definitely, I think your resilience really helps others as well around you to make shit happen. Excuse my language, but I had to get that out.
Yeah, thank you. And I think this is in the end, I'm not doing it for anybody else but myself. And eventually, like what you know, guys noticing, what you practice in private, you will be rewarded in public. And
Mm.
that's a big thing for a lot of us. So as Timmy said, we busted actually through these 18 principles and of self leadership. Please leave us some feedback if you want us to continue this leadership, or you think like, hey, I'm actually more interested in the mindset, or maybe what Timmy does with, on that level, some more deeper topics on around mindset and stuff. We obviously want to keep it business relevant, but you know,
It's your
you
call.
it's your call. We're giving you the free floor. So if you're rewatching this, reach out. I'm as well still shaping the membership area so that we have it ready for you guys, and you can get in and re-listen some of these sessions and maybe collect some extras and goodies for you. So yeah, thank you so much, Timmy. Thank you as well for your resilience and for your wisdom. It's always nice to listening to your stories. I think you're a great storyteller, and the way you talk about a lot of these practical things definitely had to help me to get a perspective. So guys, again, reach out if you need anything, if you need to re-listen, rewatch, or just want to connect with us, or want us to connect you with other cool people. Happy to help. Thank you, Timmy.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Until the next time. See you guys in 2 weeks. Bye bye.